All right, welcome. Another live stream. Man, I'm loving these. We're doing these so often now. They're so much fun. We've got the new studio here with a little bit more casual look between three ferns, or one baby one anyway. Welcome to the Endeavour Exchange. Thanks so much again for joining us. We're talking everything related to your money. We're talking new topics, hot topics, basically keeping up with what's going on. So why don't we'll jump right into it. Brant, I'm going to pepper you with a few today, but I'm going to start with one here, which is our digital wallets, because we talked a lot about digital wallets over the last few years with cryptos and things like that. So our digital wallets taking over global POS payments or point of sale payments.
Well, we'll see here in a bit, but the data is saying, obviously consumer payment preferences vary from country to country. Actually, if you look over in China, digital wallets, they're way ahead of us when it comes to things like digital wallets and paying with your phone. And what we're seeing now is globally, it's becoming much more of a mainstream method of payment, and we're seeing actually a decline. Obviously in cash, I don't remember the last time. I very rarely have cash. Yeah. It's typically card or now digital wallet. Using Google Pay. A lot more. You forget your wallets right there on your phone. No one ever forgets their phone nowadays. So, but why in 2020 have we seen such a change in this? And digital wallets has now really taken the number one spot for all global point of sale purchases. So, if we look at obviously what's happened, the rise of, I know we've talked about this a couple times, the rise of e-commerce in 2020 with the stay-at-home orders. Now with e-commerce reaching its highest growth rate in the last 5 years, the digital wallets and pay, as a payment method has really, really accelerated. And actually, we have a chart here that we can pull up. And in the chart, it shows e-commerce digital wallets dominating at 44.5% of the market share for e-commerce in 2020. And in 2024, it's expected to be over 50%. So over 50% of all purchases online are going to be done through some sort of digital wallet.
Makes sense.
With the e-commerce trend, 2020, as I mentioned, marked the first year that all POS transactions, online or offline, so we're talking, walking into stores, it took the number one spot at 25.7%, with an expectation that it will increase over 30% to over 30% by 2024. So again, it is now the number one, and this trend is ultimately likely to continue. So why? I mean, I think there's just new expectations from commerce. When we look at a lot of the tech companies, retail banking, they're all racing to satisfy consumers and how they interact and operate nowadays, and we're all mobile. I know even when it comes to, we do a lot of blogging work, a lot of online digital. What are people, when we see people reading emails?
It's all mobile.
It's all mobile, right? So it's no surprise here. The velocity of commerce itself requires more speed. So think of the process of just getting physical cash. You walk up into a till, pay with a 20. At the end of the day, they have to record how much is in the register, make sure it accounts for one another. Then they got to take it to a bank. The bank has to process it. Digital wallets eliminate all that. And then on top of that, what an interesting, I guess, trend or way to think about digital wallets and why companies are so open to using them, it comes back to loyalty of the customer. And one of the reports that we read, or I was reading before this, was they were talking about how loyalty is a new currency. So with everything online, again, e-commerce, brands are having a lot harder time creating a brand when you just it's only an online place that you go. So digital wallets are a way to create loyalty programs and engage with your customer and build your brand. So it's taken over. It's likely that trend is going to continue, and I think we're going to see some interesting developments from a number of companies. We've already, as we referenced, Google, Apple, Square. There's so many players coming into this area. It'll be interesting to see, in 10, 15 years, what that payment landscape looks like.
So I think it's just it's almost like a symptom of a bigger trend, but like the companies that are really good at experiences are, I mean, this is just a natural thing. If it's a better experience for people, then technology is going to build. They're going to build the technology to make that, you know. And so, and I think digital wallets, it's just a better buying experience for people. It makes it a little bit easier in most cases. People are they don't go anywhere without their smartphone now, right? So, so why not make everything as much as possible? Like there's a foreseeable day in the future where all you have is your small little phone there, and that's everything. And I mean, some people are going to be scared of that. It's like, oh, what if I lose my phone? I don't think that's that big a deal, actually. I mean, like, but you know, everything could be potentially on that phone. And you know, you say it's potentially harder for companies to build brands. I actually think it's just the good brands or the good companies are being more innovative in how they're building their brands. And so companies that are good at it, like Apple, they're great at it. You know, like this is a company that's really great at it. That's just another way they're building their brand. It's just, you don't have to come into my store for me to build the brand anymore and experience what Apple's all about. This is just another way you're experiencing in every little detail of your life, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, I mean, I agree. I think it's inevitable, and probably with the pandemic, this has just accelerated this trend even more because people didn't want to handle cash as much because you might be getting the virus through the cash or touching things, right? So it's just that physical contact. It's a lot easier to do these things. So it's not even
the online. I think moving forward in physical spaces, people are just going to be less likely to want to be exchanging cash from everything that we've seen. So
totally.
And as you mentioned, we don't have to remember our wallets. So, but which
is a good thing for you because you forget it everywhere. But yeah.
Well, I hope you didn't forget your wallet here because the next question I have for you, Grant, is why is a digital painting of Lindsay Lohan worth $40,000? I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah. Well, in the short, because somebody was willing to pay $40,000 for it. So if somebody's willing to pay for it, it's worth it. But would I pay for it? No. I think this is really interesting.
You don't like Lindsay Lohan?
No, we're not going to go there. This is not. Parent Trap is a great movie, but Mean Girls, we can go on and on. But anyway, no, I think this is a super interesting topic. We've been debating it around the office about like digital artwork, and we're talking about like, you know, even like the sports clips and stuff like that people are buying through these NFTs, which I'm looking at my notes to make sure I get it right. Non-fungible tokens. And so I think this is I think it's just a really neat thing. It's like art is going to the next level. It's being innovated right now. And so, you know, we've had arguments in the office with Rita, our financial planner here, about whether digital art being created like by artists like Beeple, is that real art? Is that on the same level as like a Monet or a Picasso? And I mean, you could argue the talent, but I don't think you can argue that Beeple and people like him, they're artists. They're just using a new medium, and so NFTs is just a new way of owning digital art or digital property.
Well,
really,
maybe you could go into a little bit for people that haven't heard of NFTs. What's going on here? What I guess explaining a little bit about the technology behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna high level it because truthfully, I mean, I think it goes way deeper down the rabbit hole than I even understand it. But I'm gonna high level it, and that they're using we're using blockchain basically to verify ownership of digital property. And that's what NFTs are all about. And it's you know, for anybody who's familiar with like cryptocurrencies, it's basically the same backing that's verifying ownership of cryptocurrencies. It's kind of the same concept, but now we're verifying ownership of digital properties. In particular, we're talking about art or video clips or Jack Dorsey selling the first tweet. And
how much did it go for
the
first tweet?
I think there's an auction still on, but the auction level was the bids were over $2.5 million. So this is why it's gaining so much notoriety right now, is because people are paying millions of dollars for these digital piece of art. So getting back to the Lindsay Lohan one, because like there was this picture, this essentially digital painting that went for $40,000. Now you and I looked up the painting. Anybody can Google it.
I think we can pull it up.
Yeah, perfect. So you can load it up here. Anybody can take a screenshot of what we're showing you right now.
But they don't own it.
And you can put it on a screen on the wall, and you can display that, but you will never own it. And so a lot of people, that's like freaking them out. It's blowing their minds because it's like, well, why would I ever pay $40,000 for this piece of thing that I could just download off of the internet? I guess the counterpoint to that is, well, can you download a picture of the Mona Lisa off the internet? Absolutely, you can. And you could display that on your wall. You could buy prints of famous paintings, and you could display those on your wall. but you will never own the real thing unless you buy it. And so I think where this is coming at is that there are people out there, and this may not be you, it might not be me, but there are certain people out there that want to own it. And
it's a thing. It's going to be a thing. It's just, I mean, it's in its infancy stages, the use of this, and we're obviously going to see a lot. I think we're going to see a lot more of it.
The NBA is doing a huge business on this though, now.
Yeah,
like the NBA, like they're basically replacing like sports cards,
which was one of the areas that I think is the coolest. I personally, as an adult, I'm not going to Tim Hortons and getting my NHL pack anymore or anything like that. But I can totally see as a kid going back, like way cooler than sports cards when you think of owning an actual. Because with the sports packs, they're not just pictures; they're actual videos, highlights of certain events within the sport. So I can totally see the appeal as back as a young boy of how cool it would be to be able to open a pack and see which clips that you got, and maybe be able to trade them with your friends or sell them online. So definitely really cool. Obviously, I'm not eager to be spending any money on NFT artwork anytime soon, but nonetheless, it's.
You know what? I think it's something that's here. It's going to be around. It's here. I think it's sticking around, and maybe more of us will come around to it. I mean, I can get the argument around it. I'm not a big art purchaser either, so I don't know that I'm the right target market for it. But to your point, I think a lot of kids are going to be really into like the sports cards or the video card, or like everything you can buy that way. So yeah, I know a lot of companies, and the NBA, like I said, is making a killing on this right now. So all right, let's dive a little bit deeper into something that's affecting a lot more people here today, which is home prices soaring in Canada. And actually there was some news out yesterday, and there's some comments being made by economists that are saying that we are in the biggest housing bubble ever in Canada. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but anyway, what I want to know is, why are Canadian home prices soaring right now?
Well, there's actually some interesting information that came out from the Canadian Real Estate Association, and it was looking at, now the data was for the month of January, where prices hit new highs according to their monthly data, and this may even it may have even gone even further since then. We'll have to wait till they release it. But when they looked, there was ultimately, during that month, there was a month-to-month drop in listings of 13%. So less people selling their homes on the market for whatever reason. You know, it's winter, pandemics probably aren't the most fun time to be making a move. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, 13% drop in supply. So you have that playing into it, which ultimately meant in Canada here, there was actually only 1.9 months worth of housing inventory available, which is the lowest on record. Now, combine the short supply that we're seeing, obviously with the demand being caused by, as everyone is I'm sure aware, historically low interest rates. Right. So you combine that, and the housing market's hitting record highs right now. I know here in Winnipeg, how many stories have we heard now where people are going to, it's 20, 30, 40 bids on homes. Yeah. These homes are going
$100,000 over ask.
No problem. Yeah.
Seller's market for sure.
Seller's market for sure. And actually, we have a chart here. It comes from that same information from the Canadian Real Estate Association. And the first part of it looks at the ratio of sales to new listings, which is ultimately an industry measure that looks at the tightness in the market. And this is our top chart here. So with the demand, because of those interest rates absorbing inventory like it is, the ratio rose to 91%, smashing its previous record.
Right.
The gains have been across the board over the past year in kind of all segments of the market. But single-family homes in smaller towns and cities have recorded the biggest increases. So I know here in Winnipeg, I don't think we like to think of ourselves as a small city. I think we're a good size, but when you look at us and compare us to the Torontos of the world and the Vancouvers, we're obviously a smaller city. And I think, we are absolutely experiencing that here at home in our markets. So what do you do? Like, I know in financial planning, we work with clients all the time who are prepping to purchase a home. So what do you do in this type of market? And
I think I think the answer is you got to be careful a little bit, especially like for the younger buyers out there. Like I was just working with a client this week on their son is buying his first condo, or house, But anyway, it's the first time home buyer, and I think you got to be careful. One thing I've noticed in working with whether it's younger clients or older clients, anybody who's looking to borrow to buy a property. The banks right now are willing to give you probably way more because of interest rates. They're willing to give you way more than maybe you should be borrowing. And so I think that this is a common trend that we've seen actually for a decade or two now, is that money's been really cheap, and it's seemingly gotten even cheaper. But you got to be careful about how much you're borrowing and making sure you're not getting in over your head because. I don't think like interest rates are not going to shoot up to double digits or anything like that. I don't, not anytime soon, But you don't want to get stuck with something that you're going to be paying off for the rest of your life. I don't think, and I don't think you want to get too in over your head that you have to forget about other goals that you might have as well. So what do? I mean, be careful about how much you're borrowing. But don't overpay. I mean, it's like anything.
Well, it's tough not to though. Like if you're in this market, right? Like that's the thing. This riffs off your point, but I think it comes back to proper planning, like sitting down and going, what can I actually afford? And I know, when you look at the central banks around the world, they're all saying they're going to remain accommodative, keep rates low. But, if you look at where rates are at, if they go to 2, 3, 4%, this is a double, like your interest costs associated with your the money you borrowed
could double.
Is doubling. That's what type of expense in your life do you expect to double?
Yeah.
Now the thing with that is we've heard lots of talk around interest rates and inflation and things like that. So, I mean, we don't think they're raising rates anytime soon, but if at some point inflation did poke its head in a very unexpected way, which it has done in the past. It's something that's hard to predict.
We've seen elements of that already.
So, I mean, I think you really need to, when you're going into these purchases, find a value that you think, if houses are going for more, factor that into what you're bidding on and what you're looking at, and so that if you end up, let's say, overpaying for a house, it's at least a home that you could.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Is like, are you an investor or are you buying a home?
Yeah.
Because if you're buying a home, you're buying don't think about it like an investment. Like we tell all of our clients that this is your home that you're buying. Make sure you're buying the house or a condo or whatever it is that you want, and it's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And not that you can just go all loosey goosey and just spend as much money as you want on it necessarily, but it's a little bit of a different consideration there, right? So yeah, if you have to overspend a little bit to get the house of your dreams you're going to live in for forever, that's probably okay.
Yeah,
that's probably okay. But just you got to go into it with eyes wide open. And I guess the other thing to consider is though, like even if the Bank of Canada keeps rates low, mortgage rates are based on bond rates, and so we've already seen those creeping up.
And we're highly affected by bond rates south of the border. So it's not even like our own bank has full control, ability to come in and lower those longer term rates in their entirety, because we are so affected on what's going on down south of the border. So I think it comes back to what you said, though. It's all right to overpay for something if it's your dream home, but also just be aware of the risks. You are buying in a market where if you are moving in 5, 6, 7 years, it's not the home that you think you're staying at for maybe a longer term stay. You might be looking at destroying a fair bit of equity when you go to move. If you're all right with that, by all means, go get the home. But if that's something that's a concern for you, well, then maybe think twice buying into this market. So,
agreed.
Oh, this is a fun one because we've had some of these debates in the office. But movie theaters, Grant. Dead or alive?
Okay, dead. But I'm gonna like. There's a reason for that, but I don't think that they're dead today. I mean, I think that, and we're gonna show a chart here, but certainly box office sales. Obviously, they're down through the pandemic. These businesses have been closed, and arguably they've been closed even longer than I won't say longer than they should have been, but it's like there's been some closures against movie theaters that maybe didn't even when other businesses were able to open still, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into the political debate about it, but the point is, box office sales went to basically zero. They were zero, and now they're starting to creep back up.
I think the chart that we're showing, it's like a steep drop.
Yeah, obviously
like
went to zero, a dead stop, and then flat, and then now it's like starting to creep up. And that's to be expected. People are starting to get out and starting to feel probably a little bit more comfortable and are going to come back to movie theaters. So are they dead this year? No. I think that they're coming back, and I think people, especially as the pandemic eases, vaccination programs continue to run well, that people are going to go back to the theater. But I think if you also look at the longer term trends of theater goers, and again, we were talking about this before, is it chicken or egg? But if you go back to 2005, there's a steady decline in the amount of people, the number of people that are going to theaters on an annual basis. Now, the box office totals, dollars are going up, but that's probably because of ticket prices and things like that. So ticket prices have increased, but the actual number of people have gone. So is it
chicken or the egg? Everyone goes to the theater and complains about how much things cost, and I don't want to. I'm not going to the theater anymore. And it's like, which came first? Were the people dropping off and ticket prices had to naturally rise? Or
yeah. So I guess to say it's just not a business I love because I see a potential end date for it, and I see it becoming a bit of a niche thing. Like, I chatted with my dad about this, and so my dad and my mom, this was his explanation. They on average would go probably to a movie once a month, and they like going to theaters. This is how they've done date nights since they were back in high school. So they would go to the theater and they still to this day. I go about once a year. And I like going when I go, but I go once a year. And so, movie theaters are getting maybe $20 of my money a year.
Well, our generation is a lot more Netflix and chill. That's what we grew up with.
Yeah. So but that's a good point. Competition has never been bigger for movie theaters. There are way more options. I'm not even just talking about movies. Yeah, we've got streaming services at home, but they're competing with everything that's an entertainment factor, like anything that's creating experiences. You're thinking about gaming.
Gaming is a huge one.
Gaming is huge, and gaming is doing the exact opposite. It's going like this.
And it's getting better and better and better at a very rapid pace. These games are...
Gaming's already bigger than Hollywood.
Yeah.
Gaming is already bigger than Hollywood, and the growth rates are just picking up steam. Roblox went public yesterday. Yep. Had a huge day for them.
$38 billion company.
$38 billion company. It's a platform for users to create games and earn revenue off the games they create. And, I think that's just the sign of, so gaming is obviously huge. That's trending. But there's other things too. Like people are outdoor experiences, getting more this is what theaters are up against, is there is just a world full of experiences out there now.
Well, I know we were talking about this before as well. I feel like this conversation started back when Netflix first started gaining some steam, and people are like, oh wow, this Netflix thing is really cool. You have all these movies, and they were really the first to market with that streaming service. But now we're seeing companies like Disney, who we talked about prior, own the box office, and they're now starting to release, and they're not the only ones, but they're going direct to the consumer, releasing movies and experimenting.
See, I am personally an owner of Disney, and we've recommended it for some clients. Disney I'd rather own a Disney who's producing content and is able to sell that content through multiple platforms now, including theaters, but they're not reliant on theaters, and that's become clear. They own the box office in the last 10 years, if not longer, and they're saying we don't really. They're not saying we don't care, but we don't care how we sell it. We're going to sell it whatever way consumers want to consume it.
And I think that's what we're seeing. Consumers are changing. I don't go to the movie theater. Very rarely, once a year, if that. The experience, it's overpriced. I can get the same snacks, go home, be comfortable. If the movie sucks, turn it off and move on to something else. It's just the experience doesn't compare. Netflix and chill all the way.
Okay, well, that's a good way to end that segment. I was mentioning competition to movie theaters and experiences and stuff like that. So this kind of dovetails into my last question for you, which is tourism, and in particular tourism in Canada, and how can you save, or how can we save the Canadian tourism industry?
Yeah, it's a bit of a heavy topic. Obviously, the pandemic has been a extremely challenging environment for for a number of businesses, there's been businesses that have benefited from the pandemic, but then there's the businesses that have virtually been wiped out or put on hold altogether. There's a recent report from Destination Canada, which is a Crown corporation, and it suggests that there's a long road to recovery here. They said that the crisis that Canadian tourism faces is a bigger crisis than 9/11, SARS, and the financial crisis combined.
Is that nuts?
Combined. Here in Canada, tourism, they suggest that it's linked to 1 in 10 jobs. So every 10th job is there because of tourism or has something to do with tourism. So this has Canadian tourism has a real ripple effect through the economy in ways that sometimes we're not even aware of. When we look back, 2020, the active tourism businesses declined nearly 9% from, like, their businesses are gone. They're not coming back. Travel services saw the biggest drop with 31%. Rail, scenic, and sightseeing transportation down 14.9%. The hotel industry, specifically in Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto, who were the most affected, these cities had the lowest occupancies in any region and saw revenues fall 79% for the year, losing a total of $2.3 billion. But Grant, the question that you kind of posed was, well, what do we do about it? How can we help? And ultimately, the report pointed towards Canadians. If we want to help, domestic vacations is one way that we can do that. They make an estimate on if Canadians were to essentially reallocate 2/3 of the money that we spend on international travel, if we took that money and kept it here at home. Let's be honest, Canada, we have so much to offer. I haven't been out to Whistler, or even out east, heading to Toronto, Montreal, even the Maritimes.
Keep going further.
Yeah, Maritimes. I know my family
north.
likes to go out to PEI, some great golf courses out that way, food, seafood. There's so many things that Canada has to offer. So there is an opportunity here if we can somehow get Canadians to...
So I think you're absolutely right. The best part is, like, we have everything. We have so many good things to see here, and I'm a total homer. And then part of it is because, I've done some traveling, and I'm an avid traveler. I love doing it, and the pandemic's kind of highlighted that. Hey, maybe you should do some more things at home. And we all have a good friend who's in tourism, the tourism industry as well, who's told us all about it. But I can't wait to do things like go up north, go to Churchill, do things like that. And I think it's an interesting point, though, when you told me it's like, if we just spent 2/3 of those dollars back at home.
$19.4 billion shortfall we would plug.
That's great. I mean, it's great in that I hope people are considering that.
Well, how do we do that? So, the businesses obviously are very aware of this, and they're doubling down their efforts to try and attract Canadians to Canadian destinations. So the businesses are going that direction. But even beyond that, and I don't know what this looks like, but with restaurants during the pandemic, I know in Europe we saw that Eat Out program where citizens were being incentivized to spend at restaurants through tax breaks and things like that. So I don't know if the government has any ability to possibly step in and provide some sort of tax incentive, reduction in taxes if you're traveling here at home and spending on Canadian tourism. But that's an idea, I guess. But we do really need to come out of this pandemic, really think about how we're spending our dollars. I know you saw a bit of that when businesses were shuttered, and it became, the whole idea of shopping local and finding local vendors that you could support. Well, the tourism industry right now needs the same support from Canadians. So that's how we can help.
And the best part is you're not given anything. I mean, if you want to travel,
something.
there's so many good places to go. So where are you going to go? Where's your first trip?
I'd love to. I'm a big fan of getting out and snowboarding, so I'd love to make it to Whistler, Banff, that direction. And then as well, I can't consider myself a golfer, but recently last summer picked up the clubs and trying to work some things out. But I'd love to go. Like I referenced PEI because my family actually has a cottage out that way, and we're across from an amazing golf course called Mill River, and it's just beautiful. So I'd love to do some traveling with that, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it up. That you can go and be outside and really enjoy the outdoors while doing something, I guess, fun or frustrating, depending on the day.
Not a bad idea. So anyway, I think we've reached our time here today.
Yeah.
So thanks very much again for joining us today on the live stream. And with any questions, feel free to reach out to us. So www.endeavourwealth.ca is our website. You can find all of our advisors and all our people there and our contact information. So feel free to reach out anytime. YouTube. Subscribe, like, do all of that, share.
Facebook, LinkedIn, we're there.
Yeah, we're everywhere. So definitely feel free to reach out and feel free to share this, and feel free to send us your questions. If you've got topics you'd like us to cover on this segment, feel free to send them over. We'd love to chat.
Perfect. Signing off.
Thanks very much.